Welcome to the Executive Perspective. I am Victor Monga from Fuel SoCal. We started this series because we realized that senior executives carry a wealth of experience that often goes undocumented or unheard for that matter. Our goal is simple. We want to capture that wisdom, moving past the corporate script to get to the real life lessons, the personal shifts, the future trends leaders are actually seeing on the horizon. Today, we are joined by Justin Douglas. Justin is the Senior Vice President of North America Technical Solutions at Palo Alto Networks. He's my boss's boss's boss. He leads a massive organization, over 1,200 solution consultants and engineers. He's been a leader at Zscaler, Worldwide Technology, and Cisco, and he has a reputation of building high-performing teams from scratch. We'll talk more about it. Justin, welcome to the Executive Perspective.
Thank you, Victor. Excited to be here.
I want to start with a career move that always fascinates me, the Boomerang. I heard that a lot in the tech world, if you will. You spent years at Palo Alto Networks, left to be a director at Zscaler, then returned in 2022 to take on even larger mandate here. What pulls an executive back? Was there a specific unfinished business mission that convinced you to return, or how did that time away change your perspective on leadership? So let's talk about that.
It's unfinished business is a good way to put it, right? Both companies I really enjoyed. Nothing bad to say about either company, filled with amazing people to work with. It's interesting. I look at your career journey of how do you get better with each step. And in my time away, I learned some things that I thought, man, if I could apply that to some of the great things we were doing at Palo Alto Networks, that'd be amazing, right? And, I'm a full believer in kind of the portfolio approach that Palo has. So that was a big pull of how could I mesh the greatness I've learned in both and really go have an impact. And then the other thing that really influenced me coming back is Palo Alto Networks really encourages sort of that entrepreneurial mindset. When we built the SASE team in 2018, it was 8 of us in a room trying to figure it out. A year and a half later, there was about 150 of us globally and had sort of built out the SASE organization at Palo Alto Networks. So that was always encouraged. And then when I came back, it was to build out a principal architect team. And I had a bunch of questions and they told me, you're asking the right questions. That's why we want you to come here and figure it out. So I've always really enjoyed that aspect of being at Palo Alto Networks in my career, being able to kind of think about these challenging problems and then build it out through a lot of support and guidance from people around me.
We're glad to have you here. So in a nutshell, there are 2 buckets, if you will, and correct me if I'm wrong. One is the innovation technology, the solution piece of it. And the second is the people piece of it. That was your kind of factor matrix when you were deciding where to go next.
Yeah, it was. And the big piece, if you look in the cybersecurity industry at Palo Alto Networks, it's tough to match the number of, I'll say, high quality conversations we can have with customers. And I think our first job is helping solve problems. And, with Palo Alto Networks, we come with a large suite of solutions. And so we can have conversations where we can help others. And I think that's unmatched. And then you marry that with the people that you and I get to work with every day. It's a pretty outstanding experience.
That's awesome. All right. I'm going to talk way before your executive life. Looking at your early days, you had an intense start. You knocked out your CCNA, CCNP, and I think CCIE written exams your first 6 months at Cisco. That is serious grind. And again, validate this for me if I'm wrong here.
Yeah, no, I did. It might have been a little bit under, but I was in telephony, IP telephony, and I'd worked for another company by the name of Avaya. That was a competitor of Cisco. And I got to Cisco and I had a little bit of imposter syndrome because I walked around the office and everyone was really smart. And I knew telephony, but I'm like, I need to jump into the networking space a little bit harder. And they were great in giving me the ability to go get training and saying, go after this boot camp, go after this training. Life doesn't get slower. So I took the opportunity to jump in and go after it. And the fun fact, I was at a boot camp for the IE voice. And I think there was 6 of us there that took the test the day it opened. So we were all like in the top, the first 10 getting it done. But to me, that's the best way to do it is,
Sure.
There's no time to start than now. Jump in, learn. And, I want to get over imposter syndrome, which I still haven't, but I want to at least be able to say I had some credentials that made me worthwhile being in the building.
Yeah, I'm going to follow your footsteps. So for the professional who are listening, who thinks hustle is the only way up, Do you think that early technical intensity defined by your brand for the rest of your career, or did you have to continuously pivot from technical expert to business leader? Because you are SVP now, CCNA, CCNP exams, you were getting into the weeds, you're in the trenches. Do you think that's necessary, or that just defined you who you are today? It helps you being a business leader.
I think it was key foundational skills I needed to have. And I don't know that everyone, at least for me, I felt like if I want to be relevant, I need to be able to say, hey, I have the credentials. And I think that gives you the ability to go do other things. And what do I mean by that? My first leadership role there is I had the technical credentials. And so no one necessarily had to question that completely. I think it gave me the ability to maybe go a color outside the lines a little bit, right? When I was a first time leader, my sales counterpart made me meet with marketing and figure out our marketing plan, which a lot of SE leaders didn't do. So I think it gave me the credibility saying, okay, Justin understands that. Let's do some other things. So I think that's the key piece. But if I look at my career, I think you have to deliver what's expected of you. But I think the other aspect that's at least helped me is, what I could say is getting outside my lane once in a while, thoughtfully, I hope, and doing some things that maybe aren't traditionally thought of as the SE's role or the SE manager's role or things like that. So being able to do those kind of things, I think people will allow you to be a little bit more of a thought leader and lean into other aspects of the business.
And I'm sure you have gone through the management trainings and management boot camps in parallel as well, or in sequence as well. Is there anything that you can advise to our listeners here that, hey, read that book or go through that one framework if you want to be a good manager or a good leader, a good executive? What would that be?
Well, I have one book as it becomes to being a leader in a sales organization that I swear by. I call it the qualified sales leader, that I really believe in, and that's helped me. The other training I took early on, it wasn't super intense, but it was like a 5-day MBA course that kind of immersed you in finance, HR, leadership, things of that nature. I think were really, really, really helpful for me. And then honestly, the best advice I give out more times than not is find mentors and find people and build meaningful relationships. I mean, looking back, I felt like I waited too long in my career to do that. Like reach out, ask for help, get advice. I was always fearing I was bothering someone or taking their time. And I realized people like to talk, at least I do. And like to help each other out. I think naturally people want to help others. And I feel like that was maybe a miss for me, my first, I'll call it first 15 years of my career, or 10 to 15 years of your career, reaching out and building some of those connections because people want to help.
It also relates to some of the confidence as well, right? So just so I can see someone and I want to get mentorship from them, maybe I just don't have the confidence to go and ask that. So that also goes with a little bit of building confidence. You don't get what you don't ask for. Just that simple.
Yeah, look, and I think anytime you can work on cross-functional projects and other things, I mean, even when I was going for this job and I had a mentor tell me, it's like, people will do background checks on you and understand what they've done. And it's amazing when they can go talk to someone and say, I've worked with Victor on this project and here's what he was really good at and here's how he helped me out. And if, you go to 5 people and at least 4 have worked with Victor and had positive things to say, it means you're actually, again, getting outside your lane and helping others, which I think is what we should be doing.
100% power of yes. Yeah. So part of this show is about where we are going. I know you have been vocal recently about securing enterprise AI. You're leading a technical army of more than 1,200 people, I know it, who have to sell solutions for technology that changes almost weekly, if not daily. When you look at the next 24 months, not 5 years, just 2 years, what is the biggest shift you see coming for the traditional solution engineer, solution consultant? Is AI going to change the fundamental way we sell and secure technology?
I believe it will in a couple of ways, right? Where did we start talking about getting the certifications, things like that? What did we do in the CCNAs? We configured routers and, that we did a lot of, I don't know that skill set's very relevant, right? I mean, we're already seeing that with co-pilots and things like that. You go a little bit further in the sales engineering perspective. From a sales engineering perspective, think about RFPs. At some point, this knowledge is all public. If I'm a customer, I issue and answer my own RFP and understand that. So if I start looking at skill sets and what's required, AI from a technical perspective, I think is crucial. I think it's the biggest opportunity we've had. It's a bit of the Wild West. And I feel like we're going to repeat sins of the past by launching a million point products out there to solve specific problems, which don't have context with each other's tools and how that combines. So I feel like that's a real challenge. But if you go back to the technical configuration, yes, you need to understand how it happens and understand maybe the methodology that takes place. But I think from an engineering perspective, what's going to become really, really important is how do I marry technical capabilities with business needs? And if I look at sales engineers or even engineers working for the enterprise, it's more about where's our business going? What are our key business objectives? And how do we start mapping technology to that? We talk about it with SEs at Palo Networks. One of the phrases I've used is command of the customer, meaning I understand the technology, but do I truly understand my customer and what they're trying to do, not only from a business perspective, but there's people's own individual motivations and aspirations as well. So I think those soft skills, Victor, in understanding people's motivations and organization motivations are going to be as important and more important than maybe some of those old school hand-on keyboard type skill sets that were required in the past.
And I think it's almost, as you were talking about it, I'm having flashbacks because around 2015, that time, security engineers or security departments stop being just the IT subset of it. We start being more of business enabler. We talk about it. Like role of CISO has gone from IT/security to a lot about risk, about the business. And I think I see the same in our world. I see that same, knowing the business of the customer. What are you doing? How are you selling? What things impact you is how I will drive the solution instead of the traditional way of you tell me what you want and I'll sell it to you.
Yeah, I think you marry that with being able to look around the corner. And the one maybe perspective that we have is we get to talk to a lot of organizations all day, every day. And that's a unique perspective. And I think it's our job to share what we've learned from others with organizations. So understanding their business objective, understanding they want to deploy AI, looking around the corner and saying, hey, here's where I've seen these initiatives slow down because of this technical capability. I think that becomes much more important than, Victor, I need to look at your firewall and I'm looking at these 3 other firewalls. Here's the use case. Show me how it's done. Right? Like that's important, but I think it's more of the advisory piece and mapping the business needs.
So pretty much being proactive for the customer instead of reactive as well. That becomes part of it. As again, I see that as the time I would take to read an RFP, start typing it. Now, if the time is being augmented by an AI to do that, I have the time what I can spend for the customer. I can actually take care of that for the customers.
One last thing on that, you can also show up and be a lot more informed on the customer. Right. I had a CISO say once, if it's been published in writing, I expect the vendors that I've worked with to have read it. And so if you start thinking about that, how can I become a lot more well-informed when I go sit down with an executive from a customer? I should have done my homework, and I have the tools that will actually help me consolidate that and become a lot more informed versus what keeps you up at night. Well, guess what? You should already know that. And what are their key objectives, and then iterate on that.
Justin, you mentioned, I think, one of the meetings or public speaking sessions, you focus on building high performing teams. As we head into more AI ready, automated future, what is the one human trait you look for when hiring leaders today that you didn't care about 10 or 20 years ago? That you were like, that was something that I never cared, but now today, soft skills you mentioned already, that could be one of the high criteria on your list, but anything else that you are like, okay, this is one thing that I really care about it now, building high performing teams because of the AI change of automation and all that?
I don't know if it's necessarily because of AI, but it probably is to me how we can operationalize and scale anything that we do. Right. And I think that is key from a leadership perspective. If you have an idea, you have a problem that's going to be solved, and maybe you're using AI to do it. Okay, now how do I set that on fire and scale and operationalize what that looks like? The idea of having a human being a key point to any process is not the answer anymore. And, I think I just said it last week. If a process involves someone's name, it's not a process. So as a leader, we think about how do we scale motions and how do we make them effective? And then on the backstop of that is, and you can use AI for this as well, data-driven expertise of what that looks like. So assessing the problem, analyzing the solve, and then knowing when to cut bait on a certain solution because the data is proving it's not being effective. But I think the biggest piece that I look for when I'm meeting with people is how can you operationalize amazing ideas? So we can get great ideas, but then how do I put that in motion with an org of 1,200 people to get a predictable output?
100%. I think that's going to be the name of the game, right? Process is not tied to a person. Process is tied to a process at the end of the day. So it can keep running regardless of the person change or not.
You got it. You got it.
Let's shift gears. Let's do something funny.
Okay.
We'd like to end with a few rapid fire questions to get to know the person, you, Justin, not just the SVP at Palo Alto.
All right.
You're based in Minneapolis. Give us one hidden gem in the Twin Cities that is in the Mall of America, something that you like to tell people that, hey, if you're coming to Minneapolis, try this.
Well, there's a couple of things. From a food perspective, we're fond of the Juicy Lucy. Have you heard of that?
No, I haven't.
The burger with the cheese on the inside.
Okay.
And there's two restaurants in the Twin Cities that claim to be the founders of the Juicy Lucy, and that's always a fun thing to do. The other thing I mention to people that don't understand Minnesota, necessarily the Twin Cities, is like, as an example, today we're going to hit 19 below Fahrenheit, which is extremely cold. So this time of year, it's not amazing. But what I tell people is when you hit the summer months, there is no place I'd rather be than Minnesota. And the hidden gem is actually you go an hour and a half to 4 hours north of the Twin Cities, and there are lakes everywhere. And, the weekends, you see this mass migration on Friday afternoons, and on Sunday nights coming back, everyone heads to the lake, and it is an amazing place. Why I'm still here. It's an amazing place to be in Minnesota. So if you can come in the summer months, find a lake, and it's a great place.
Nice. You are a Stout alum. If you could text your college self one piece of advice, what would that be?
There would be a lot of pieces of advice. Pay attention.
Whatever comes to your mind.
Pay attention. Look, I think what I would have done, I would have leaned into probably more of the business side more, right? And get more involved and do that. So I think that's what I would have done is get more into those technical skills and what those look like. But, I feel like I did it right. I probably could have prioritized time a little bit better, got a little more serious and then realized what the opportunities were in front of me. I went to a really small college, a state school, and I was from an even smaller farm town in Minnesota. So not understanding what opportunities laid in front of me, I think I probably would have shared that. And I share that with people who are coming into our academy and other things. It's like, there is a lot of opportunity if you dig in and embrace it and attack it quickly.
And I thought you were going to say that the new type of beer that you tried now, you could have probably texted yourself back in the college. But
I had plenty of beer back then, and I don't have any anymore. So I got plenty back then.
All right, we'll wrap with this. You have a high stress job. What is your specific mechanism for disconnecting or coping with it? Sports, cooking, travel, Netflix, whatever that is.
First is family. I have two amazing kids that are 20 and 18. And I have an amazing wife who, whenever people meet her, they're always scratching their heads on why she's hanging out with me. So that's the big piece. And then exercise for me is a great stress reliever. When I'm on the road, I try to get a quick workout in and a quick run in every morning. And I think I'm a high strung, high energy person as it is. So if I can take things down about 10%, it's very helpful for me to focus and do things like that. So that's my release, is just getting out, getting some exercise, getting some runs, and then having a really awesome supportive family. Like, you can't do these jobs if your family's not bought in my 100%. Opinion. And my family was bought in. We made the promise years ago, if it got too much, I'd pull the ripcord, but they've been amazing partners in this. And it truly is a partnership in my personal life to make this
Love it.
Successful.
Justin, we'd like to close with one piece of actionable wisdom for the IT or security professionals listening right now who wants to be sitting in your chair in 10, 20 years. What is one thing they should start doing tomorrow? And I should listen to that closely as well.
I think I go back to what I said earlier, and that is find mentorships.
Okay.
And start developing some meaningful connections outside of maybe reporting chain or your direct team. And I'll tell you, the biggest advocates for me have been in my career. I've been in sales engineering has been sales counterparts. And so the other thing is, choose your partners wisely, and they can help you tremendously. The amount of people that have stepped up and unsolicited spoken on my behalf or done really, really amazing things for me is crazy. And I always tell people, like, sometimes I feel like it's dumb luck, but it's really actually I think it's surrounding by yourself with really, really good people. And I know that's a kind of a wishy-washy answer, but like, to me, you branch out, you let people know how you're thinking, and then there's no surprises. And then I think the rest will take care of itself.
Justin, thank you so much for sharing your perspective. For our listeners, remember, this conversation is just half the story. We'll be releasing a documented blog post summarizing Justin's key strategic initiatives, insights, career lessons on Fuel SoCal website shortly. Thanks for listening to The Executive Perspective. Justin, once again, thanks so much.
Thank you, Victor. Appreciate it.